The first thing she felt was his breath against her ear. Controlled. Restrained. Dangerous. You're shaking, Nuna. Sophia's fingers tightened in the silk of his suit jacket, her knuckles pressing white against the obsidian fabric. Behind her, floor-to-ceiling windows revealed Seoul at midnight, a kingdom of glass towers and frozen rain, every light below blinking like it was afraid to look up. She should have stepped back. Should have remembered what he was. What he'd done. What he was still capable of doing. But her body betrayed her. It always did with him. "You don't get to call me that," she whispered. Her voice came out fractured, half threat, half plea. "I'm not my what?" Seojin's voice dropped lower, a sound that didn't belong to boardrooms or business negotiations. It belonged to confessions made in the dark. To sins committed slowly. "My prisoner? My enemy." He paused. "My obsession?" Sophia's heart slammed against her ribs. She could feel the heat of him through their clothes, not touching, never quite touching, but close enough that every nerve in her body screamed for resolution. This was the man who controlled the Korean underworld, whose name made politicians stutter and made corporations rewrite their quarterly reports, whose enemies didn't just disappear, they were erased so completely that even their families forgot to grieve. And right now, the most dangerous thing about him wasn't his power. It was his patience. "Say stop." His lips grazed her temple. Not a kiss. A question. "Say it once, and I will walk away. I will close this door. I will never touch you again." The silence between them pulsed with 3 months of history. Betrayal. Blood. The terrifying truth that somewhere between her captivity and her survival, she had stopped wanting to escape. Sophia exhaled. It wasn't surrender. It was acceptance. His hand stopped just short of her waist, hovering, asking permission without words. The heat from his palm radiated through the thin fabric of her dress, and she thought, this is how empires fall. Not with armies. With a single, unguarded moment. She didn't say stop. Somewhere in the background, soft Christmas lights glowed across Seoul's skyline, blinking red and gold like they didn't know a storm was brewing. Like they didn't know that the woman standing in the arms of a monster had already decided to become one herself. Before the story continues, family, wherever you're watching from, if you love dark romance, Afro-Korean stories, emotional thrillers, and love that doesn't ask for permission, make sure you subscribe, like this video, and drop a comment telling me where you're watching from. Because this love story didn't begin with tenderness. It began with a bullet that was never fired. The safe house wasn't safe anymore. Sophia knew at the moment she tasted smoke in the air, not the controlled burn of cooking fires from the street below, but something chemical. Purposeful. The kind of smoke that preceded bodies. She had 17 seconds to react. She used 14. By the time the first door exploded inward, she was already climbing out the bathroom window, her bare feet finding purchase on the rain-slicked concrete ledge 3 stories above the alley. Her gun was in her right hand. Her phone destroyed, SIM card swallowed, was a memory. The agency had sold her out. She'd known it was coming. Had felt it in the clipped voices during her last debrief, the way her handler avoided eye contact, the sudden silence when she entered rooms. Sophia Okoye, asset 27, fluent in English, Yoruba, and Korean, ghost trained by M16 before being recruited by a nameless American agency, survivor of 11 extraction missions in territories that didn't officially exist, had become inconvenient. And in their world, inconvenient meant dead. She dropped into the alley as the safe house above her erupted in flames. Glass rained down. Someone screamed in Korean, a language that shouldn't have been there, not in Lagos, not in a supposedly secure location. Korean. That was when she understood. They hadn't just betrayed her. They'd sold her. Gifted her location to the one organization that had spent 3 years trying to find her. The Jeonjongpa. The Black Faction. Korea's oldest crime syndicate, older than the government that pretended to control it. Sophia had stolen documents from one of their subsidiaries 2 years ago. Had exposed a money laundering operation that cost them $40 million and the life of a senior lieutenant. They wanted her dead. And now they knew exactly where she was. Sophia ran. She made it 6 blocks before the first bullet sang past her ear. For more blocks before her ankle twisted on debris and sent her crashing into a construction site, half-finished towers of steel and concrete rising around her like the ribs of a metal beast. She found cover behind a pillar. Checked her clip. 8 rounds. At least 12 hostiles, based on the footsteps echoing through the skeleton of the building. She was going to die here. The realization came without drama. Just a flat, clinical acceptance. She'd always known this was how it ended, not in retirement, not in some quiet apartment with plants and morning tea, but in blood and darkness alone. At least she would take some of them with her. She raised her weapon, sighted on the first figure entering the construction site, and stopped. Because the man walking toward her wasn't holding a gun. He was holding a phone. And he was speaking into it, calmly. In Korean. Julia Mui Yunjail Yul Kunio. Juninian Sale Isasio. Cut the cloud connection. She's alive. Sophia's finger hovered on the trigger. The man was young, younger than she expected. Late 20s maybe. Tall, with the kind of face that belonged in fashion editorials, not firefights. He wore a tailored black coat that probably cost more than the entire building they were standing in. And he was looking at her like he'd been waiting. Sophia Okoye, he said. His English was accented but precise. You have 8 bullets. There are 19 of my men in this structure. Even if you killed everyone that entered, you would run out of ammunition before they ran out of bodies. She didn't lower her weapon. And you are. The man who should have killed you 14 minutes ago. He stepped closer. Into the light. Into the line of her gun. And Sophia realized he wasn't armed because he didn't need to be. I've been watching you through my rifle scope for 13 minutes, he said. Waiting for authorization to fire. It came. I declined. Why? Because you're worth more alive. To who? For the first time, something flickered in his expression. Not cruelty. Not calculation. Curiosity. To me. His name was Kim Seo-jun. Heir to the Jeomjongpa, the Black Prince of Seoul. A man whose father had built an empire on blood and whose mother had taught him that mercy was just murder with a longer timeline. He was supposed to end her life that night. Instead, he did something far more dangerous. He chose her. You're insane, Sophia said flatly. Possibly. You're the son of the man who put a bounty on my head. My father put bounties on many heads. Most of them are now part of his collection. You, however, Seo-jun tilted his head, studying her like she was a painting he couldn't quite decipher. You've survived longer than anyone expected. That makes you either very skilled or very lucky. And you're betting on which one? I'm not betting, he said. I'm recruiting. Before Sophia could respond, the world behind her exploded. Not metaphorically. Actually exploded. The safe house she'd escaped was now a column of fire visible across the Lagos skyline, and the shockwave hit them both like a physical wall. Seo-jun moved without hesitation. He grabbed her arm, pulled her against him, shielding her body with his own as debris rained down around them. His coat took the worst of it. She heard glass shatter against the fabric, felt him flinch as something bit into his shoulder, but he didn't let go. When the dust settled, he was bleeding. And he was still holding her. Your agency didn't just sell your location, he said, voice steady despite the wound. They sold the extraction protocol too. The building was rigged. If I hadn't pulled you out when I did, I would have been inside when it blew. Yes. Sophia looked at the inferno. At the life she'd thought she understood, burning to ash. Why save me? She whispered. Why not just let the fire do your work? Seo-jun released her slowly. When he spoke, his voice was different, quieter, stripped of performance. Because I've spent 6 months learning who you really are. Not Asset 27. Not the ghost the agency created. You. Sophia Okoye. The girl from Port Harcourt who taught herself English from bootleg American movies. The woman who turned down a scholarship to Oxford because your mother was dying and you couldn't leave her. The operative who cried silently, where no one could see, after every mission where a civilian was lost. He met her eyes. I've read your files. All of them. Even the ones your agency doesn't know I have. And I know something they don't. What? You're not a weapon, Sophia. You're a weapon they failed to break. And that means everything they think they know about you is wrong. He extended his hand. Come with me. Let me show you who really sold you out. Let me give you the truth they tried to bury you with. Sophia looked at his hand, at the blood on his coat, at the flames behind her. She was alone, burned, betrayed. And this stranger, this enemy, was offering her the one thing no one else had in years. A choice. She took his hand. She didn't trust him. Not then. Not for weeks afterward. But she got on the plane. She let his medic stitch the cuts on her arms. She slept in a locked room in his Seoul compound, a room that was either a prison or a sanctuary, depending on who held the key. And somewhere over the Pacific, watching the clouds turn gold with sunrise, Sophia admitted something only to herself. For the first time in 7 years, she wasn't running. And she didn't know if that terrified her or freed her. 2 weeks into her rescue. The compound was beautiful in the way weapons were beautiful, elegant lines, precise engineering, and an undercurrent of violence humming beneath every surface. Sophia had memorized every exit within 3 days. Identified 15 security vulnerabilities by day 5. By day 10, she had a complete map of the property stored in her memory, including the rotation schedules of Seojin's personal guards. She was ready to escape. She just hadn't decided if she wanted to. You're not eating. Seojin's voice came from the doorway of the dining room. He stood there in a charcoal sweater and black trousers, looking less like a crime lord and more like a CEO who happened to own several illegal governments. I'm not hungry. You've said that for 3 meals. Then stop counting. He crossed the room, pulled out the chair across from her, and sat without waiting for invitation. A staff member materialized instantly, placing tea between them, imported, she noted, from a region in China that technically didn't export to South Korea. Your agency, Seojun said, as if continuing a conversation they'd never started, has been laundering money through my family's financial network for 11 years. Sophia's expression didn't change. I know. You know? I found the irregularities 18 months ago. I reported them to my handler. She smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. Which, I assume, is why I'm here and not dead in a briefing room. Seojun studied her. You knew they'd betray you. I suspected. And you stayed anyway. I had nowhere else to go. The admission slipped out before she could stop it. Vulnerability, leaking through the cracks of control. Seojun leaned back. When he spoke again, his voice was softer. You do now. Is that what this is? Sophia gestured at the opulent room, the guards beyond the doors, the invisible cage around her. A home? Or just a different kind of prison? That depends. On whether you stay because you can't leave or because you choose not to. He stood, walked to the door, paused. The east gate is unlocked between 3 and 4 a.m. Skeleton crew. No cameras. If you're going to run, that's your window. And then he left. Sophia didn't run. Not at 3 a.m. Not the next night. Not the night after that. She told herself it was strategic. Told herself she was gathering intelligence, waiting for the right moment, playing the long game. But when Seojun looked at her during dinner the following week, just looked, with those dark, patient eyes, she felt something crack inside her chest. Something that had been frozen for a very long time. The first fight, it happened on day 23. Seojun had been in meetings all morning with men whose names Sophia recognized from intelligence briefings, men who trafficked more than goods, who traded in people and silence. She'd watched them enter the compound from her window, watched the way the guards tensed, watched the violence simmering beneath every handshake. When Seojun emerged that evening, his jaw was tight. His knuckles were raw. And when he saw her in the hallway, something dangerous flashed in his expression. You shouldn't be in this wing. I shouldn't be in this country, Sophia shot back. And yet here we are. This isn't a joke. Neither is being kept like a pet while you play king with killers. He moved closer. Too close. The air between them crackled. Those killers, he said quietly, are the reason you're still breathing. The people who sold you? They haven't stopped looking. They've hired 4 different contractors to find you. 3 of them are dead now. The fourth is on his way to my interrogation room. Sophia's breath caught. You didn't tell me that. You didn't ask. I shouldn't have to. No. His voice hardened. You shouldn't. But you also shouldn't wander into restricted areas where associates of my father's can see your face. You are not invisible here, Sophia. You are protected. And that protection only works if you let me do my job. Your job. She laughed bitterly. Is that what I am? An assignment. Something shifted in his expression. The anger drained away, replaced by something rawer. Realer. No, he said. You're a problem I don't know how to solve. Then stop trying. I can't. The confession hung between them. I can't, he repeated softer. Because every time I look at you, I forget what I'm supposed to be. Sophia stared at him. This was the man who controlled an empire. Who had killed or ordered killing more times than she could count. Who had been raised to see people as pieces on a board. And he was looking at her like she had already won a game she hadn't known she was playing. Seo-jun. Don't. He stepped back. The walls came up again, but not fast enough. She'd already seen behind them. Don't say anything. Not tonight. He walked away. But for the first time, Sophia noticed that his hands were shaking. We're in the middle of the story now, family. And I need to know, is your heart racing yet? Drop an emoji in the comments if you're already falling for Seo-jun. Drop a fire if you think Sophia should stop fighting what's happening. And don't forget to subscribe, because what happens next changes everything. It was 2:47 a.m. when Sophia heard the first scream. Not from outside. From inside the compound. She was dressed in seconds, weapon drawn from beneath her mattress. She'd stolen it from a guard 3 days ago, and no one had said a word, which meant Seo-jun knew and allowed it. The hallway was chaos. Guards running. Gunfire echoing from the west wing. And beneath it all, a sound that made Sophia's blood freeze. Korean. Shouted orders. But not in Seo-jun's cadence. His father's men. The old faction. The ones loyal to traditions that Seo-jun had been quietly dismantling. The ones who saw his softness as weakness. And they were staging a coup. Sophia found Seo-jun in the library. He was already fighting 3 men against 1, and he was winning, but barely. Blood soaked his left sleeve. A blade had caught his cheek. And he moved like a man who had been raised for violence, but was tired of wearing it. She didn't think. She moved. The first man went down with a bullet to the thigh. The second caught her elbow to his throat. The third had a gun aimed at Seo-jun's back. Sophia threw herself between them. The shot grazed her shoulder, spinning her sideways, but it wasn't a kill shot. She fired back. Didn't miss. And then silence. Seo-jun caught her before she hit the ground. You, his voice cracked. You idiot. You're welcome, she gasped. He pulled her close, hands pressing against the wound, trying to stop the bleeding. His composure was gone. The mask was gone. He looked at her with something that terrified her more than any bullet. Don't you ever do that again. Or what? Or I will burn this entire world down looking for the man who teaches you to live recklessly. She laughed. It hurt. Everything hurt, but she laughed. That man is you, Seo-jun. He went still. And then, very slowly, he pressed his forehead to hers. Just breathing. Just existing in the same moment, in the same pain, in the same impossible truth. I know, he whispered. The battle ended before dawn. Seo-jun's men regained control. The traitors were taken to rooms that Sophia didn't ask about. And when the sun rose over Seoul, painting the compound in golds and pinks, something had shifted between them. Not spoken. Not acknowledged. But there. Then she showed up. Her name was Han-yuna. And she was everything Sophia was not. Korean. Refined. Raised in the same violent world as Seo-jun, speaking its language fluently. Their engagement had been arranged when she was 16 and he was 20, a merger of crime families, a treaty written in future children. She arrived at the compound 3 days after the coup attempt, sweeping in like she owned the place. Because Sophia realized she technically did. So you're the stray he's been hiding. Yuna's voice was melodic and cruel, the kind of voice that complimented while cutting. She circled Sophia like a predator assessing wounded prey. I've heard about you. The African spy. The older woman. She said older like it was a disease. Sophia smiled. And I've heard about you. The arrangement. The alliance. The fiancé. Is that what you call it? I thought it was more of a leash. Yuna's eyes flashed. You have no idea what you've walked into. You're a disruption. A temporary one. Seojun will tire of you the way he tires of all his projects. And when he does, I'll still be here. Because I'm not a project. She leaned closer. I'm his future. Sophia held her gaze. Then why are you so threatened by his present? The slap came fast. Sophia caught Yuna's wrist before it connected. For a long moment, they stood frozen. Power against power. Will against will. Then Sophia released her. I don't want to be your enemy, Sophia said quietly. I don't even want to be here. But I will not be threatened. Not by you. Not by anyone. If Seojun is your future, then have him. But don't mistake my presence for a competition. She walked away. And didn't see the look on Yuna's face, the look of a woman who had just decided that a disruption needed to be removed. He found her on the rooftop that night. She was sitting on the edge, legs dangling over a 100-foot drop, watching the city lights pulse like a second heartbeat. You talked to Yuna. It wasn't a question. She talked at me. I listened. Seojun sat beside her. Not too close. Never too close, as if he was afraid of what happened when they touched. The engagement, he said slowly, was arranged before I understood what arrangements meant. My father wanted an alliance with her family. Her father wanted access to our distribution networks. I was currency. And now? Now my father is dying. Slowly. The doctors give him months, maybe a year. And when he goes, the engagement becomes yours to break. He didn't answer immediately. When he did, his voice was raw. Yuna is not a bad person. She was raised the same way I was, told her value lay in who she married, what alliances she could forge. She's never known anything else. That's not an answer. No. He turned to look at her. It's not. The city sprawled beneath them, indifferent to the gravity of the moment. What do you want, Seojun? He stopped. Started again. I want to be someone who chooses. Not for strategy. Not for survival. For meaning. And what does that look like? His eyes dropped to her lips. Just for a moment. Just long enough to set her pulse racing. I don't know yet. But I know it looks more like you than anything else in my life. Sophia's breath caught. I'm not. I know what you're not. He cut her off gently. You're not young. You're not naive. You're not easy. You've seen more death than most soldiers, survived more betrayal than most spies, and you still choose softness when no one is watching. You sing to yourself when you think you're alone. Nigerian songs, I think. Yoruba. She stared at him. How? Because I watch you, Sophia. Not to control you. To understand you. And the more I understand, the less I want to let go. He reached out. Slowly. Giving her time to pull away. She didn't. His fingers brushed her jaw, tilting her face toward his. I know I have no right to want this, he whispered. No right to want you. But I do. And I'm tired of pretending otherwise. For a long moment, the world held its breath. Then Sophia did the bravest thing she'd ever done. She leaned in. Their lips were a breath apart when the explosion rocked the building. Not a bomb. Smaller. A warning shot, a signal. Seojun was on his feet in an instant, phone already in hand, rapid Korean firing through the line. Sophia watched his face change. Watched the softness drain away. What is it? Yuna. His jaw tightened. She's contacted the agency. Told them where you are. The world tilted. She what? She's trading you to buy leverage. If you're gone, she thinks I'll fall back in line. Sophia's voice was flat. Cold. Be the air she needs. I won't let them take you. You might not have a choice. Seojun grabbed her shoulders. Fierce. Desperate. Listen to me. I have spent my entire life being told who to be, who to love, who to kill. I let my father dictate my future because I didn't believe I had one worth fighting for. But you. He pulled her close. You are the first thing I've chosen. And I will not let them take you from me. Sophia's eyes burned with unshed tears. Seo-jun, promise me. His voice broke. Promise me you'll fight. That you won't give up. That no matter what happens next, you'll survive. She cupped his face. Felt the tension in his jaw, the fear he would never admit to. I promise, she whispered. He closed his eyes. Then let's go to war. The snow fell like forgiveness, soft and silent and entirely undeserved. Seoul was glittering beneath a blanket of white, Christmas lights twinkling from every building, carols drifting from somewhere distant. It should have been peaceful. But inside Seo-jun's compound, peace was dying. The agency had sent 12 operatives. Yuna had provided the security codes. And the old faction, the loyalists who had never forgiven Seo-jun for his mercy, had chosen tonight to make their final stand. Sophia fought like she was already dead. Because in a way, she was. The woman who had walked into this compound 3 months ago, frightened, betrayed, hollow, she was gone. In her place was someone forged by fire and choice, and the terrifying knowledge that love could exist even in darkness. She killed 4 men before the first hour ended. Took a bullet grazed to her thigh. Kept moving. And through it all, she was looking for him. She found Seo-jun in the main hall. He was surrounded. Blood on his face, his suit shredded, a knife in one hand and a gun in the other. He was fighting like a man who had nothing left to lose. And then he saw her. Time stopped. Move, his eyes screamed. She did. The bullet that was meant for his back hit her shoulder instead, spinning her into the wall. She heard him roar, not a word, just raw sound, pure rage, and then the man who had fired was dead, neck snapped with brutal efficiency. Seo-jun caught her before she fell. No. He was shaking. Trembling. No, no, no. I'm fine. She wasn't. The world was graying at the edges. Shut up. He lifted her, cradling her against his chest. Shut up and stay awake. Do you hear me? Stay awake. Seo-jun. I am not losing you. Not tonight. Not ever. He carried her through the chaos, through the gunfire, through the bodies of men who had tried to take everything from them. And when they reached the medical wing, when he laid her on the table and the doctors swarmed, he didn't leave. He stayed, held her hand through every stitch, whispered prayers in Korean that she didn't understand but felt in her bones. And when her eyes finally fluttered closed, exhaustion claiming her. I love you. His voice was broken. I should have said it sooner. I should have. Seo-jun. Her eyes opened. Just barely. I know. And then, with the last of her strength, she pulled him down and pressed a kiss to his forehead. Live, she whispered. And I'll stay. He closed his eyes. Forever. Seoul no longer whispered about Kim Seo-jun. It whispered about them. The heir who had defied his father's dying wish. The woman from another world who had walked into the shadows and refused to disappear. The love story that shouldn't have survived but did, written in blood and snow, and the kind of loyalty that terrified everyone who witnessed it. They called her the Black Queen. Not because she ruled, though in many ways she did, but because she stood beside him in every room, every negotiation, every silent battle of wills. And no one who looked at her doubted that she would burn the world for him, just as he would for her. The Christmas lights were still up. Sophia had asked to keep them. Something about the way they glowed through the snow, something about the way they reminded her of the night everything changed. Seo-jun stood beside her on the balcony, cities sprawling beneath them, the future stretching out like a promise. You still don't belong to me, she said quietly. He took her hand, pressed it to his chest. Let her feel the heartbeat that had become hers months ago. I know. That's why I choose you. Every day, every hour, until there are no more hours left. Sophia looked at him, at the younger man who had bent an empire without ever trying to bend her, who had learned that strength wasn't control, it was trust. Then stay, she said. He bowed his head, not in submission, in devotion. Forever. She smiled, soft, real, free. And as the snow fell around them, love, dangerous, loyal, unbreakable, claimed its throne. Family, if this story held your heart, subscribe to this channel right now. Turn on the notification bell so you never miss an upload. And share this video with someone who loves dark romance, forbidden love, and stories that make you forget how to breathe. Comment below. Do you believe in love like this? The kind that breaks rules and rewrites futures? Because tomorrow's story is even darker, even deeper, even more dangerous. And you do not want to miss it. Until then, stay blessed, stay bold, and stay ready for the next chapter. This is Afro Soul Diaries. And this is just the beginning.